What's going on, everybody? Welcome in Fantasy Alarm live stream. I'm Howard Bender. With me here, of course, Craig Mish. Lots of fantasy baseball stuff going on here. First off, Craig, how was the weekend, man? Was it a good weekend for you? Before we dive into the sadness that is the Corey Seager owners here, how was your weekend, dude?
It was pretty good. I went to a baseball game Friday night. Tried to scoop those Dolphins draft picks. I ended up getting probably like one or two out of the 6 or 7 that they got. I ended up predicting one of them there, and it was just fast and furious, man. That NFL draft, it was really hard to do. But then watched a lot of baseball this weekend, and then went to the Marlins game last night against Philadelphia Phillies, and of course, sitting there in the press box, Howard, around 6 o'clock, I think it was Eastern, maybe 3 Pacific, and maybe you may have been on the air. I'm not even sure. But then people around, walking around, talking about the news with Corey Seager, and then, of course, going to my phone, seeing what happened. So it was a fun weekend of sports. Great to be at the ballpark when I can, but I hate to see that for fantasy owners, including me.
Yeah, listen, it's a bummer. Everybody's dealing with injuries. You and I were just talking before the show started here. My FSTA team. Usually you're not getting whacked on both the pitching and the hitting, but my pitching has been atrocious, but all my hitters are hurt. So dealing with guys, like Will Myers and Jonathan Scope and trying to get these guys off the DL, that's been a problem here. Corey Seager news. So really, did it surprise you? Like, I know you and Jim had Farhan Zaidi on the SiriusXM Fantasy Baseball show. What exactly did he say? Because I mean, I don't mean to pat myself on the back here too much, but oh yeah, I said during spring training that he was supposed to have surgery during the offseason. They opted against it. They said rest and rehab. Let's go with that. I said, well, that's fine, but once he starts throwing regularly, once he starts swinging a bat regularly, what's that going to do to his elbow, and how soon before that crops up and is a problem again? Then he goes into spring training, and he's DHing the entire time. He's not even making the throws over from third. So again, for me, this was just a matter of time before it happened here. But I mean, obviously, you and Jim, who both invested in Seager, got some news from Farhan Zaidi telling you otherwise.
Yeah, I'll read you the direct quote because I asked for it this morning from the show. Because I debated whether or not we should play it on the air. We didn't play it because I thought that was like maybe going too far. But here's the quote. Corey looks great. He worked with a physical therapist over the offseason to get his arm right. He should be a full go once the season starts. Everything has looked great. He's looked great physically. And we all expect big things from him. That was it.
That's a semi-glowing endorsement there. That says draft my guy.
I don't know. I think that, I mean, obviously they wanted the best for him and they wanted to believe it, but we probably should have seen some of the red flags during spring training, especially right up until the end with him playing designated hitter. I took him in 2 different formats. He was a slipper in drafts and for good reason. And in the league that you and I play in for the money, that's going to hurt me. I don't know. I mean, you lose a guy like that, it's very hard to win a league with your first 5 picks. It just really is. And then I'm playing in a points league, which I don't think is that crucial for me. I think I can find somebody to give me 60% of what he gives. It's a 12-team league. Pitching is so premium. You know that. Yeah. So I'm not as crushed. And by the way, in a points league, you know how it is. In a head-to-head league, it's like fantasy football. You're 1-1, you're 2-2, you're 3-2, you're 3-3, you're 4-3, you're 5-3, you're 5-4, you're 6. I mean, it's 2-star pitchers. It's the whole thing. So depending on who you have, usually if you draft well enough, that's your record. So the truth is that we probably don't need to spend a ton of time on who to pick up and what do you do, because the answer is easy. You go to pick up the best shortstop that's sitting out there on the waiver wire if you can.
Get yourself some Nick Ahmed.
That's pretty much it. But as I talked about on the show today, and somebody ripped me for it, I have a deep sleeper possibility that I came up with, and it's probably not going to work out. Let me say this in the beginning, okay? It's probably a bad idea. But the name, Howard, that I came up with, and I'll pose the question to you first.
Okay.
Based on the year that Corey Seager had last season, 2017. Okay. Let's make the assumption that he was going to give you 85% of that this year, meaning that he took a little bit of a step back this year, right? Probably could happen. Maybe he could have been better. Let's say he was a little bit worse. Is there anyone on the waiver wire right now that's going to come close to what Corey Seager did last year for you in replacement?
No, not at all.
None,
Not at
right?
all. Well, I mean, there
Right.
shouldn't be. I mean, it depends
No.
on the depth of your league, but chances are, is even in a just a standard 12-team league, no, you're fishing through your Nick Ahmeds, your Lourdes Gurriel, those type guys.
Right. So my idea is to take a shot in the dark on someone who's done what he did before. Because there is no one on the waiver wire like that, right?
Right.
There's only one guy. There's only one guy on the waiver wire who's done what he did before. Troy Tulowitzki. He's the only one. Now,
Yeah.
let me say this. There's almost a 0% chance of this happening. But let me ask you a question. What if, by some chance, from June on, Troy Tulowitzki looks like he did 4 years ago? It's almost impossible, but he's the only one. So you pick him up, you put him on the DL. Gurriel, I don't know. He's looked okay. I mean, nothing fantastic. Ledmus Diaz does not look good. What happens if Tulowitzki takes over the job and hits 18 home runs? Is it impossible? I don't know. But that's the only name that intrigued me that's unowned in every league. I think probably Troy Tulowitzki is done and non-fantasy relevant. But instead of picking up, I mean, Ahmed's a decent name, but instead of picking up a player that's going to do nothing for you, why don't you do this? Pick that guy up and then also pick up Tulo and stash him on the DL. When he comes off the DL, if he's 0 for his first 15, cut him. It was not worth the investment. It's a crazy idea, but of all the names that I saw out there this morning, that's the one that I'm going to pick on and say I'll take my chance and see if he can recapture that glory that he had 3-4 years ago. It's not likely, but also not impossible. And listen, if the Braves can think that Jose Bautista is potentially their answer at third base, then I can think that there's a chance that Tulowitzki may come back and be something. And again, I think he's on the 60-day DL, so he wouldn't be back until the end of the month. But they do not have that position is not solidified for them, Howard, at all.
No, it's not actually. They're having huge problems. It's kind of funny that we're going to talk Jays here for a second because I know that Jim talks to John Gibbons all the time, and Jim and I actually had a discussion yesterday about the health of Marcus Stroman. And I was talking about the defense behind him. Well, Gibby keeps telling Jim that Stroman's healthy, Stroman's fine, right? But then I sat and I watched the start on Saturday. And Stroman did look fine.
Oh, he did,
yeah, he did. The problem was that his defense was garbage. It was high choppers up the middle. It was a ground ball that was just out of the reach of the shortstop. I mean, it was one thing after another that all of a sudden you saw 3 hits, then a run in, and Stroman walking around the mound, all sorts of frustrated, all sorts of angry. Defense should have easily gotten him out of this inning if they had better range. And then he serves up that meatball, and then boom, it's 4-0. That's how his first inning went. And so I kind of opined that to Jim, saying, well, what if Stroman is healthy and it is the defense behind him right now? Because, yeah, listen, I'm with you. The defense is not good. Ledmus Diaz has not been the answer at all. I can't tell you whether or not Lourdes Gurriel is going to be, but he'll probably stick at second most of the time there. I don't know where they're going to put Solarte. That's the thing. That's the only thing that could derail your plan is that if Gurriel stays at second. Base? Well, yeah, but if let's say Gurriel hits and Gurriel plays, and Gurriel stays at second, Solarte probably goes to short.
Maybe so, or third. Donaldson's not healthy either.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to wait and see. Well, this team is just battered and broken, man.
It is, and yet they've been winning a little bit. And again, it's kind of looking at it as a very big dart throw when you lose a guy of that magnitude. Like, for example, if I would have lost another shortstop, Chris Owings. Let's say I have Chris Owings in a 12-team league, and he's out for the year. Then you're not running to grab Troy Tulowitzki. You're just running to grab the guy that can replace him. But it's a huge Hail Mary to see what he's got left. You're not risking a lot, and he hit 24 home runs 2 years ago. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. Now, last year he hit 7 in 241 at bats. That only puts him out to 14. It's not something that you're counting on, but when you lose a player of this magnitude, you kind of have to shoot for the stars. I think a little bit here, and you have to take a huge gamble. And what's the gamble of stashing a guy in the DL if he comes off? What if he gets 3 home runs the first week? What if he gets none? You know the answer then at that point.
Yeah, listen, if you have the DL spot to give, absolutely. It makes no sense to not just try it out and have somebody stashed there. It doesn't make any sense. You're going to be dropping a guy to pick somebody up anyway. So make that move for too low stash and then pick up somebody else.
Only if you have Seager, by the way. I wouldn't do this with...
Oh, yeah.
But if you have Seager in a 12-team league or 15-team league and you're like, wow, I took him in the 5th round, I'm never getting that production at that position.
Ever.
Take a shot. Take a shot then on somebody who may have done it in the past, maybe. But all in all, it's going to be a very hard injury to overcome for those people who are playing in 12-team leagues, 15-team leagues, and if you took them in an NL, that's the toughest. That hurts.
Oh, and that's going to leave a mark. That's kind of like going with Will Myers as your first baseman and not having another first baseman because somebody drafted every first baseman in the league and you've got nobody. Nobody. What are you going to do? Listen, it happens. Guys, we are broadcasting live, obviously, here across Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. Get your questions in. By all means, Craig, going on the spot here. We'll talk seasonal, we'll talk DFS, whatever you want to do. To dive into DFS real quick, though, just for a second here, Craig. Did you see the pitchers tonight?
What's the deal here? Hold on
clue.
a second here. Now, at the beginning of the season, I was told, and everyone says, that the number one starters who start opening day don't get used to them starting every 5 days and on the same day because, they're all starting today again. I talked about that this morning. And not to mention Homer Bailey, not that he's a one, but he started opening day for Cincinnati too. He's pitching today. So they are all there. And we were discussing it this morning, trying to piece it together. Which of the high end guys would you pair on DraftKings with one of the lower end guys? And there's definitely some good choices. I mean, Sale at home seems phenomenal. You got Scherzer going against Pittsburgh. You got Syndergaard tonight too. Verlander against the Yankees is a huge favorite against the Yankees tonight for Houston. So, but yet one of the biggest favorites tonight is Michael Wacha, ironically, of the Cardinals. So yeah, I think there are some decent options there outside of the top guys too.
I didn't even look at the price for Wacha. He's going up against the White Sox. He's going to end up facing. They got James Shields on the hill there. What's Wacha's price tag sitting at? Why don't I see it? Wacha. Oh, there he is. Oh, he's at $8,000. Yeah, I gotta tell you, man. I tried piecing together a little bit of a lineup here, talking like a little St. Louis stack, obviously going up against Shields, and a couple of Brewers going up against Homer Bailey. Scherzer.
I love that Reds. Yeah, that offensive matchup, Reds, Brewers. I could see, Shaw, Yelich, Kane, Schebler. I think that's a high total in that game too. That was the offensive target for me. And the other thing that I'm curious about, I don't know if I'd have the stones to pull it off, but Kershaw walked 6 guys his last time out in that huge game where he was a monster favorite against the Marlins, and Cook has looked pretty good for Arizona. We know that LA is playing without Turner, they're playing without Seager, and Kershaw's a huge favorite. I may be willing to fade that. I mean, am I crazy for thinking that tonight? I mean,
no, I don't think fading Kershaw. No, listen, I'm actually fine with fading Kershaw. I really am, because no, he hasn't been the Kershaw of old, and we've already seen this now. And the walks are a problem. And when you've got Sale and Verlander and Syndergaard and Scherzer all on the hill, I mean, why? Why am I gonna pay $11,900 for Scherzer? It's less than you can pay up by $500 and grab Sale. You can pay up by $700 and go with or $800 and go with Scherzer. I mean, I don't think it's not a question of fading. The question is do you do the contrarian stack and use all those Diamondbacks?
And Kershaw's ERA is still good. It's just a matter of him putting guys on base. So I don't know. I think I would just stay away from it. But Cook has looked okay, and he's going to stick in the rotation. I should have probably targeted him more in season long this past week. I didn't, for some reason. I mean, now it's obvious because Robbie Ray is going to be out for a long time. But even when Taijuan Walker went down, this kid Cook had an opportunity, made the most of it, probably was going to stick regardless. And now he's 100% in that rotation for Arizona.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Let's talk about that for a second here. Robbie Ray, him going down. We'll get to our full April report and any questions that we've got, but let's talk about that because we are getting hit with a number of injuries. Like I'll say for the 90th time that Will Myers is back on the DL. But Robbie Ray dealing with his oblique. Who else was just went down also? I mean, besides Seager. The obvious. We're just getting waxed with a number of injuries here. I had them all listed, but I mean, what do you do to fill? Like, were you in on Robbie Ray? Like, you're not going to get. I mean, you can't find anybody who's going to have those strikeouts. You can't have. I mean, the strikeout rate is fantastic still. Ratios.
Yeah, I think I had the choice of Robbie Ray or Luis Castillo. I picked Castillo, so it didn't work out either way.
How's that making you feel?
Yeah, not so good, but I'm not completely sold that he'll be terrible all year. I think he'll be okay, but I don't own Robbie Ray. I wasn't off him by any means. It just didn't work out. But that's a devastating injury to a fantasy team. You said it, Howard. 200 strikeouts in a rotisserie league. Just not going to the waiver wire and picking that up. It didn't happen.
What are you talking about? Somebody obviously dropped Jeff Samardzija in your league. You can definitely grab 200 strikeouts. No, you're not into the Shark? Come on. That was always the beauty of the Shark. It was 200 strikeouts. Nice little innings eater. So he's taking some lumps right now coming back from injury. This is like his spring training, bro. You don't buy that?
No, I'm going to pass.
You're going to pass? Did you pass on every one of those late signing people? We're going to be doing our April report, so we might as well chime in about this because Samardzija didn't have his spring training because of injury. Lance Lynn, Alex Cobb, Greg Holland. Who am I missing? Who else didn't have like a full-on spring training?
Jake Arrieta.
Oh, yeah, right. How about that whooping that he got yesterday? Was it 6 runs in 3 innings?
I was at that game, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you were at that game. You know, it was so funny, too, because Jim and I were sitting there on the air yesterday. We were like, wonder why our guy doesn't have Arrieta in the playbook. What's wrong with that? It's the Marlins. The Marlins.
Yeah, good call to keep him out. I mean, Arrieta had looked great until that point. To answer your question, the only one of those that I had was Holland in the show Points League, Jim and I. And I think I told that story on the air already, right? Where I basically told Jim's narrative was pushing Holland as the closer.
Right.
And I'm like, Bud Norris is better than Greg Holland. Like, I mean, what don't you see about this? Oh, no. It's going to be Holland. I'm like, okay. You look at my team. You take Greg Holland, propose any player on your team, and I'll do the deal. He's like, what? I'm like, any player that you propose to me for Greg Holland in this 12-team league, I will do. He proposed Fernando Rodney. I took Rodney. He has Holland, and the rest is history.
Oh, my gosh. So he just gave you Rodney. That's right. He did tell me that he made that deal. That's yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, I've got Holland, so I'm not gonna poo-poo the move here.
I don't know. I'm not feeling it. I mean, the Cardinals are an organization that can absorb that kind of money. I still think he'll have the opportunity to be the closer again. But I think if I put Bud Norris up against Holland rest of season saves, I think I'd take Bud Norris. I really am. I mean, Holland needs another couple weeks, I think. Like, he just, oh, God. And going back to last year in June, he just hasn't looked like the same guy. I'd be very worried about that. Arrieta, I'm not as worried. He's looked better than the rest of them. But literally, you're right, Howard. Every late signing, even going back to mid-February, when we're talking about Yu Darvish, and you're talking about Logan Morrison also, right? Like, no one outside of Arrieta is in the clear on this thing, I don't think.
Maybe those guys should have gone to that MLB-sponsored training camp for unsigned free agents, huh?
Oh, the names at that thing, man, that's like graveyard for fantasy in the past, man. It was crazy. I saw a lot of the names there. Jared Saltalamacchia.
Who didn't love Salty? Just a whole bunch of old timers just looking to cling on, huh?
Yeah, some outfielder on the Orioles who was supposed to be good for a number of years too. I forget who. Rickard, maybe Joey Rickard or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Joey Rickard. He just took a couple of at bats the other day. Yeah, listen. I mean that the whole not having spring training is obviously. I mean that's a big deal right now, and we are seeing it with these guys. Do you have hope for these guys to turn it around in a month's time, 2 months' time? Maybe leave them for the second half. Where are you at with these guys as far as people who want to know what they should do with them? Do I drop Lance Lynn? Do I drop Alex Cobb? I mean, Lomo's already sitting on the waiver wire in every single one of my leagues. I mean, I'm sure you get all of these comments back and forth. So what do you tell everybody?
Well, after last night, Lance Lynn is now 0-3 with an ERA of 8. He's walked 23 batters in 23 innings, and the Twins are 0-5 in his starts. I mean, has there been a pitcher in Major League Baseball worse than Lance Lynn? The answer is no.
Excuse me 1 second, please.
You got real red there.
I'm back.
Okay. Feel better?
No.
Yeah. You can't start Lance Lynn anymore. I don't know if you're going to cut him, but you can't start him. You can't start Alex Cobb. You can't.
No, Cobb. I was out on Cobb when he stayed in the AL East, and obviously, Camden Yards is a bandbox in comparison. Yeah, in comparison to where he was at the Trop. So I was out on him. Lynn, I was in on. I have a share of Arrieta in what? Don't look at me like that.
You can't start Lance. I would keep Lance Lynn. You cannot start him for now. You just have to. I mean, he's already. Let's be honest. Probably ruined your season. Like I don't think there's coming back for Lance Lynn with an ERA of 3.3. Like I mean, if he gets you back down to 4.5, 5, then I would take it as a win. But he's just too dangerous to start right now. You can't do it. Holland, you still have to own him. I wouldn't start him in any fantasy league. And I mean, there is definitely still some concern with Yu Darvish for sure. Like I probably could have ended up with Yu Darvish in a couple of leagues, and it just didn't work out that way. But I would feel nervous about him also. He hasn't looked right with the Cubs.
Yeah, well, the Cubs this past weekend. You can't deny what they did. Like seriously, like Darvish, Hendricks, Quintana, and Chatwood. I mean, that was 27.
Chatwood came through.
That was 27 scoreless innings for their starting pitchers. 27 scoreless innings. That's pretty damn good.
And they just have a good track record against the Brewers. Maybe they'll be able to continue it. There's no denying that was one good start, but it hasn't been smooth, and we could chalk it up to the weather or some other things. I mean, I'm not cutting any of those players, but for the time being, we just have to wait and see.
I'll chalk it up to the weather. I'll feel better about myself than that stretch. All right, couple of questions here. Nick Ski. Oh, he just here. Will Knebel really be healthy and stay in the closer role upon return? How do they take Josh Hader out of what they're doing right now?
Wow, he looks great. I wish I had him everywhere, right?
I do. Did you see that those innings yesterday?
I just saw the numbers. That's all I saw.
Here's some Josh Hader facts from Sheehan's newsletter. Let's see. Struck out 8 of the 9 men he faced in 2 2/3 of an inning save for the Brewers. The outing runs Hader's strikeout rate to 63% on the year. 63. 39 of the 62 batters Hader has faced have dragged their bat back to the dugout. Hader's outing last night tied him with 12 others for 5th most strikeouts in any save. 2 of the instances ahead of him date to before World War I. The 2 modern pitchers, both with 9 strikeouts each in 4-inning saves, are you ready for this one? Bruce Ruffin in 93, and then Jim Kern.
I remember Bruce Ruffin.
and then Jim Kern in 79.
Bruce Ruffin with the Philadelphia Phillies, correct?
Correct. The last pitcher with 8 strikeouts and a save was Randy Johnson in 96. That was he pitched 4 innings.
Hader's been a beast. I think Knievel will get the job back. I think he will be. Will he last? I don't know, but I think he will get the job back, and Hader will go back to the 7th and 8th. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, I think you're right. In the leagues that I have Hader, and I planned on using him throughout this season like an Andrew Miller type guy. It just so happens that he was getting saves here. But yeah, so Knievel stash. So yeah, you think that he jumps back in? I think he's coming back this week. What do I got?
Yeah, I don't know that about that, but yeah, when he comes back, I think that he's the closer for sure. Knievel was great last year once he took over.
Yeah.
For Neftali Feliz, was it? Yeah. So what happened to that guy? So yeah. So since then, I think he'll get another shot.
You didn't see Feliz at that training camp earlier this spring?
He may have been there.
He could have been. All right. Kim Newman says, I'm in an 8-team head-to-head category league, and I have Cruz and Hanley Ramirez, and looking to either trade or drop one. 8 teams, so I can understand the dropping. Hanley's first base eligible along with DH. Cruz just DH. I have Votto at my first base and Healy in the corner infield slot. Not sure what to do.
I mean, it's really hard to judge an 8-team league. It's just simply about what you're targeting, what you need, what you have. Was it head-to-head, did he say, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah, head-to-head league. Categories or points, did it say? Or at all?
Category. Are you not listening? Do you not have your listening ears on today?
When are we starting? Are we on the air?
3, 2, 1, and we're live.
Oh, welcome back. Hey, Howard, great to be with you. Corey Seager, what a shame. What a shame.
Oh, I tell you. Did you buy into it? Did you have any shares of him?
Oh, you know what? Troy Tulowitzki, not a bad option.
That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. What idiot would propose that? So stupid.
I think what I would do is cut Hanley Ramirez if I had to, and keep Nelson Cruz.
Me too. What do you think? What do you think happens with Hanley now for this season? Like, he's got that clause in his contract. Was it like 487 plate appearances? If he logs that, then boom, Sox are on the hook for $22 million next year.
Wow.
But how do you bench him with the performance right now? Like, I don't believe that he could keep this up the entire season. But Hanley Ramirez definitely has always been a special talent. The injuries got to him, age has gotten to him a little bit. But what happens if he does? What happens if he goes all Adrian Beltre on us and he pops 30-plus home runs, he hits 300, 100 RBI, steals 10 bags? Like, how do you sit him knowing that you're going to end up having to pay $22 million to him next year?
Yeah, I don't think they will. I think they're going to play him. And I think that's it. Hanley Ramirez was the first overall pick in fantasy drafts one year, number 1.
No, I know.
I think he had 30 home runs, 40 steals, or something like that. Some crazy.
So back in 2007, I had crazy league, keeper league, and I had amazing protects. That I kept like all 9 guys that I was allowed to, so I had very minimal dollars going into the draft. Blind bid. I was like, screw it. I'll throw $1 on each middle infielder for the Marlins. That was $1 on Hanley and $1 on Ugla, and I got them both. Got them both and went wire to wire in this league, and it was like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah, they had an infield, I think, of first, second, short, and third with all 25 home runs or more. And I think one of the guys was just short of 30. They would have had an all infield of 30. I think it was Mike Jacobs. Remember that name at first base? Dan Ugla at second. Yeah. Hanley Ramirez at short. And then at third base,
Mike Lowell?
Jorge Cantu.
Oh, my God. Jorge Cantu. That looks like somebody set his face on fire and tried to put it out with a track show. Seriously.
Jorge Cantu in spring training in one year showed up. Him and Dan Ugla on the set of the radio show I was doing, smelling of in the morning, smelling of alcohol. And the first question was, we're trying to ask to Jorge Cantu, hey, how's everything going? How's the season? And his first answer was, well, I'm single.
Oh, shocker. Shocker.
I was like, what? I'll never forget that. Yeah,
dude,
we were it was weird.
So his girlfriend or whatever, the blind girl that was, reading his face all day, apparently just got rid of him. He went out and got wasted. That was a horror show, dude. He made Davy Johnson look like he had smooth skin. Like you could hold gravy in the pockmarks in Jorge Cantu's face. Wow, I don't mean to be mean.
You were just pounding this guy. Wow.
He's been like the bane of my existence. It was a good friend of mine in that home league of mine. And I don't know if he's in here watching, but Dave Graber, if you are, yeah, Jorge Cantu.
He was good. Jorge Cantu.
He was. He actually was. I'm not going to lie. It was. He definitely was. All right, Brian Silverman wants to know, looking for another good starter available on the wire right now. Junior Guerra, Yarlin Garcia, and Tyler Chatwood. Any of these three worth adding long term?
For me, I would probably order them Chatwood, Guerra, and then Harlan Garcia. If it was for the next month, it would be Harlan Garcia, Chatwood, and then Guerra. Harlan Garcia is going to be shut down at 120 innings. That's a fact. So given the fact that he's only thrown 50 or 60 innings max in the minor leagues, he's probably only going to make 12, 13 starts the rest of the season. So that's not someone that you really want to own. And in addition to that, I think there's a chance that he goes down to the minors in a couple of weeks and they slow him down that way. But for the time being, he's looked great and he's great to start now, but you just have to keep that in mind in a season-long league. Chatwood, who I own in a league and you own, I think, Howard, in a couple. It's all about the walks with him. I don't know where this is coming from, and I don't know, metric-wise where we stand with this and how you feel about it, Howard. But those walks are shocking. I don't understand it, and I don't know where it's come from. Guerra plays, on a solid team. I just don't see him getting deep enough into games. He's going to need bullpen help, and they do have the bullpen help there in Milwaukee. So I think Chatwood and Guerra, both good options long term. And for the short term, it would be Garcia.
Yeah, the whole bullpen situation in Milwaukee, it's definitely going to shorten everything up. And it was one of the things that I was looking at the beginning of this season was which teams were constructing their bullpens like that. I think when we were talking to Jerry Dipoto, the Mariners, and they were talking about the bullpen construction over there. And I just said flat out, I'm like, are you just not expecting your guys to go more than 5 or 6 innings? Because that's really how you've built this pen. And he was like, that's a pretty good observation. And for the most part, that you want to get Paxton 6, maybe 7 innings. But, who else is on that roster there that you can put your trust in for the Mariners to happen like that? And, you look at the Brewers. Right now, I was talking to one of the beat writers leading into the season, and I was like, there's no way the Brewers can go in thinking that Chase Anderson and Zach Davies is their 1-2 punch. But now that you look at the way this bullpen is constructed, you're going to get Corey Knebel back. You've got Josh Hader, who can do the 2 innings, Jeremy Jeffress, Jacob Barnes, Matt Albers. I mean, really, do you need a starter to go more than 5 innings for the Brew Crew right now? That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, we can't make the assumption that all 5 of their guys are going to be healthy, and that's what happens. Is that right now they are, but they really don't have any reinforcements. So I think it's a fair assessment to say that April, May, and June, this is what the Brewers' starting rotation is going to look like. But I think they'll get to July and they'll make a deal for someone. I think they'll upgrade that rotation. But for the time being, the bullpen has been great. I think they had a scoreless inning streak going for a long period of time also. So a little surprised with how good the bullpen has been. I was never big on Albers or Jeffers, and they both have pitched well. But when they get Knebel back, it's lined up 5, 6, or 6, 7, 8, 9. And even though you don't have a lot of faith in the Brewers starting pitchers, you don't really have to, because all they need to do is get you 5, 6 innings, and that's all they need.
Yeah, I kind of like both Chase Anderson and Zach Davies. I just don't think that either one of them is a number 1. And I think if the Brewers are really going to go all in on the season, they need a number one ace. They just need somebody like that.
Yeah, Jimmy Nelson will come back, and that'll be a big key for them, and that'll push everything the right way. But we don't really know what Jimmy Nelson's going to be when he comes back. But he was so good in the second half of last year. So,
well, his performance will obviously dictate whether they trade or they don't.
Right.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's talk about April here. We're a month down. I just posted the new rankings over at Fantasy Alarm for the month of May. Some really interesting stuff went down in the month of April here, Craig. Give me some of your biggest surprises, some of the things that you look at and you say, I knew this was going on, or wow, I had no idea that this was going to happen.
Yeah, I think the biggest surprise. I don't know if it's a surprise, but the biggest maybe player that people acquired in fantasy that ended up hitting was Didi Gregorius. You could make the case that he is the MVP of fantasy. So far, I didn't see it coming. I didn't see him being this good. I don't have him anywhere, and I saw what he did last year. I talked to him in spring training too, but to say that he'd be a 35 home run bat, I didn't see it. I wish I had the foresight, but I didn't. Jed Lowry has been a huge surprise in fantasy. He's probably the most value of anyone. Yeah. Maybe Villanueva too. We'll get to him, but I think Lowry, because he was in 12-team leagues, like a last round pick, and if you got that production and had him in your lineup since day one, then you should be in good shape in your league unless something drastically went wrong. So those are a couple of guys, I think, off the top of my head that I like.
Yeah, the Didi Gregorius thing, for me, it was, did anybody see? I don't think anybody saw him being a 30 to 35 home run bat. 25 to 30, though, I did think that was within the realm. I mean, you've seen it with a number of guys who the Yankees end up picking up for their glove work, who understand what they have to do to hit in Yankee Stadium, that short porch in right field. Always a big thing. We saw it with Scott Brosius. When he came to the Yankees, all of a sudden Scott Brosius was a silver slugger at third base. He wasn't even just a Gold Glove; he was a silver slugger. So Didi comes. He's supposedly, just the stopgap between Jeter and I guess Torres would be the what he was supposed to be. But I mean, how you can't move him out of there. I mean, this kid has just been, and he's young too. Yeah. He's young, and hitting in that young what.
Young.
He is young. Well, I mean, listen, it's a great time to be a Yankee fan. I'm really sorry that you're a lousy Marlins fan and that you're stuck down there.
Hey, come on. 3 in a row. Just getting started.
Just getting started for what? Bedtime? Huh? Oh, look, we won 3 in a row. We're not going to win another game for the rest of the season.
That's terrible. Jed Lowry, Gregorius, and then the other one, and he hit 3 home runs last night, A.J. Pollock, right? I mean, A.J. Pollock is showing that when he's healthy, he can be a fantasy star. 20 home runs, 20 steals is what you drafted him for. You'll probably get more than that out of him.
Where is he at right now? It's so funny that I should have looked up his numbers, and I'm going to go to it right now. And I'm vamping a little here to just kind of stall so that I can take a look at it. He's got 9 home runs, 6 stolen bases right now. All right.
Who's better than
that? Didi Gregorius.
Yeah, but
and you paid less.
How many steals does Didi have?
I think he's got like 2.
Well, 6 is a lot, right? Like that's what we're.
Hey, listen, he's no Ender Inciarte, my friend. He's no Ender Inciarte.
Why are they batting him 9th? I don't get it.
See, that was the thing. I didn't understand it either. Jim was like, he was sitting on the air yesterday. He was like, I think it was great. What a bold move. I like that move. Blah, blah, blah. I mean, yeah, listen, I get it once you go through that first, series. But what's the point of that?
Off.
Yes.
Albies bat second.
Yes.
Acuna third. Freeman fourth.
Yes, 100%.
You have to wait till the 9 spot to get Inciarte up. I mean, some games are won in the first few innings, right? I don't like it.
You think Snitker goes back to the normal?
I don't know, but I hope he does because Inciarte, I never expected to steal this many bases. I have him in one league, and if you would have told me he would have 16 all year, I would have been like, awesome. He's got 13 in April. Crazy.
Magical. Absolutely. I was sitting there yesterday doing Jukebox Monday And Lisa Ann dared me to go with all Grease tunes. Like, how did you not go Grease Lightning and go with Ender Inciarte? I mean, it was a must.
I like it.
It was a match made in heaven there. Yeah, I really hope that he does not stay down in that 9 hole. That would be disastrous. Absolutely disastrous. I mean, you're losing at bats. How many at bats do you end up losing for every 3 spots you drop in the order? It's like 50 at bats over the season.
I'm disappointed. I mean, why would you fix something that's not broken? I don't know.
I don't know either. All right, so you're in on AJ Pollock. You think AJ Pollock? Okay, you're going to give the caveat as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, I did. I said at the beginning of the year that he would be a star, so I'll stick with that. But it's health is the key issue with him. But if he drafted 20 home runs, 20 steals, he's like halfway there already in April. So
he do. I do have a couple of shares of him, which is absolutely fantastic.
Well, I mean, you have a million teams. I would hope you have him somewhere. So.
But I was riding him on DFS last week, where we had 6 stolen bases in the span of a week.
Is there any player you don't have in fantasy?
Corey Seager.
You shut up.
I'm trying to think. Is there somebody who I absolutely don't have on any of my teams? I think for some reason I don't have Nolan Arenado anywhere. Like, I'm trying to think of like the top guys who went, because I've got Trout and I've got Harper and I've got no shares of Kershaw. No Kershaw here.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, on Friday when we do the first month season draft on SiriusXM, you can take Kershaw in that draft on Friday afternoon at 3.
Are we doing a draft Friday at 3?
You believed me. You believed me that we were really doing that. That's the sickest thing.
Why would that surprise me, though?
Exactly.
Why would I just listen? I just did a best ball draft for football on Sunday. Okay, the week before that, I did a best ball draft for baseball, which made 0 sense, and you've heard my tirade on that. So, yeah, I really, it would not surprise me Friday at 3:00, and I'm sure, you know what? Let's get Matt Deutsch in on this, like watching this. You know, he'll be like, "Oh yeah, great idea. Make that like do it a best ball." He's already like neck deep in football right now. There is no baseball to him.
Did you take in your best ball football? Did I give you the names to take already in that or no?
Oh, I don't know. Who'd you tell me to take?
Oh, I got the good one for you now. Anthony Miller, that's the one.
Oh yeah, he went. Actually, I had him all lined up in my queue. I was all set to take him, and somebody snaked him right in front. I think Mike Clay took him from me.
Yeah. The other thing is, Mike White, the quarterback that we had on the show this past Friday, who played for Western Kentucky, got drafted by the Cowboys. So, people don't want to admit it and people don't want to think about it, but hey, you never know. You never know. I mean, who's to say? Dak Prescott,
I get enough Cowboys talk. I don't need Cowboys
I know.
talk.
Let's not touch that.
Let's go back to April. Let's talk about some rookies. Let's talk about some guys who really not only shine, but like really kind of came from out of nowhere. I can sit here and we can start off with you said Christian Villanueva earlier. Yeah. So let's just start Padres here, because Villanueva and Joey Lucchesi are probably 2 of the most productive, best waiver pickups that we've seen. And then you've also got Franchy Cordero.
Love Franchy. I mean, Villanueva is out of nowhere, like no radar. Never heard his name, never knew that there was any interest. And I guess the story goes, I heard Andy Green, the manager, talking about it, that they had scouted him when he was with the Cubs. And A.J. Preller was familiar with him, but they certainly didn't see this kind of power. I don't think they thought Lucchesi would be this good. But the manager had better things to say about Franchy Cordero than any other player on his team. So that, to me, is the player right now to target in fantasy leagues. There'll be a lot of swing and miss there. And so in points leagues, I don't know how valuable he'll be. But there's basically nobody in baseball hitting the ball harder than Franchy Cordero. And eventually, that's going to mean that when he makes contact, he has a chance to do special things. He already has 6 home runs. Like, I mean, the Padres, either they lose 8-0 or they win 10-0. That's it. There's no middle ground.
Yeah, well, I mean, last week he had 3 home runs, no stolen bases. He batted like 221, I think it was, and then over the week before that, had 1 home run, 1 stolen base, and hit like 215 that week. So, I mean, yeah, the hard hit rate is definitely there, and he is making a decent amount of contact. Still swinging and missing through a little too many pitches, but how does that situation shake out, though? I mean, obviously, with Will Myers going back on the DL, you get that stay of execution. Margot, Franchi, and then you got Jose Perella. We're supposed to be getting Hunter Renfroe back from the DL like today or tomorrow, is really what's going to happen there. So the question is who's the odd man out here? Does Perella lose out? Does Hunter Renfroe sit in like a platoon maybe with him and Franchi? Do they do something like that?
I think Franchi's going to play every day unless he goes 0 for 20 with 10 Ks. That's the way that it seems like it. Maybe Perella sits, maybe Renfroe sits. I mean, does Renfroe do a lot for you? I don't know. Doesn't really do that much for me.
He doesn't. I mean, he did, and then I got balled out by Jim over and over again for my Hunter Renfroe love. The dude does rake against lefties. He's killing lefties this year. No? Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard to figure the whole thing out. But I in Tout Wars NL spent $2 on Franchi Cordero. So we're talking about 15-team leagues in NL leagues where you got a major steal. I mean, 6 home runs already for a guy. Remember, he didn't play in the first week of the season.
Yeah.
So consider all of these things. If Cordero at the end of the year bats .238 with 28 home runs and 63 runs driven in and 21 steals, he's already stole a base last night.
Yeah.
That's a waiver wire fantastic pickup for you, and that's exactly what it should be. Every team can use a guy that comes off the bench in fantasy and reality to be able to put those numbers up, and I think that there's a real chance that could happen for him this year. The way they're talking about him is like he could be a superstar. I mean, I'm not kidding.
You know what? I've got him. I'm okay with that. Listen, him and Teoscar Hernandez are 2 guys who I think fantastic outfield pickups here. You actually didn't have Teoscar Hernandez on your list here, but I definitely rank him up there. What about talk to me about Brian Anderson? What's that?
Yeah. Teoscar Hernandez was somebody I was also on last year. He I was very big on him. And then going into the season, I was very big on him. I'm in 5 leagues. I had him in 4. When he didn't make the team, I went down to 3. I had to cut him. So I still am riding him hard. He had a lot of talent in Houston, so there was really no place for him to play. He had a collision in the outfield last year. I think he broke his face bone or whatever that is. And then he just basically missed the rest of the year until he was traded for Francisco Liriano. Grichuk is now on the DL. Teoscar's going to play the rest of the season. That's going to be the end of it. 280, 20 home runs, 18 steals, something like that. Nice 4th outfielder in fantasy, maybe even better. Somebody got off the waiver wire, and that's the key there. Brian Anderson of the Marlins. He's 2nd in runs driven in amongst all rookies. He played right field last night, and he made a great catch. He'll qualify to play 3rd and the outfield. There'll be some growing pains along the way, but another player that you can have as a utility type guy in a 12-team league, move him in and out in the right matchups, and solid on base percentage too. And I'm a little, I thought he would be good, but I am a little surprised because he went through a rut for a couple of weeks, striking out a bunch, and now it seems like he's turned it around again. Yeah,
I've been very, very happy with the recent production. Because yes, I do own him too. All right, a couple of Yankees. I mean, how does hitting not become contagious when you're playing for the Yankees? There, Tyler Austin, Miguel Andujar. Now, Andujar has probably been the bigger surprise. Austin kind of fell into the role here. We'll have to see what happens with Greg Bird if he ever does come back and if he ever is healthy. What's going to happen there? But Andujar is really just, I mean, it's made the pickups of Brandon Drury and Neil Walker, I'm not going to say moot or meaningless here because they definitely filled the role very early on. But I mean, you can't take Andujar out of the situation right now. You got to let him play. Same with Torres. Torres is actually having a pretty good start. It's not eye popping that everybody's like, oh my God, he's the best ever. But he's still productive, and as is Andujar. So both those guys, I think, huge grabs for people.
Yeah, the Yankees have proven that they're willing to send Andujar to the minors, though, which is a little scary. I think that Torres stays at second base every day. I think Andujar is the one that's going to have to hit to stay, because I just don't know that there's room for all of those guys with Drury and Walker. I don't see it. I don't know how it can happen, because it would seem to me, and I'm sure you agree, that both those guys, Walker and Drury, are bench guys at this point. But can you have all of those players on the same 25-man? I'm not sure. If I had to guess, if Andujar keeps hitting, yes, he keeps the job. But he would be, unfortunately for me, let's say 1 for 15 slump from them saying, you know what? Go back to the minors. When we need you, we'll call you back. We'll plug in Drury, play him at third, and then we'll give Torres days off and use Walker at second base. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen. And Andujar looks like a phenomenal player, but I still think it's to be determined there. The Yankees do have options. Andujar clearly has options to go back to the minor leagues if they needed to. It sounds crazy in theory, but the Yankees have really put the stamp on Torres, saying he's up, he's our second baseman, and he's going to be the second baseman for the rest of the year. They didn't say that about Andujar yet. So I think he has to hit to stay in the lineup, and so far he has.
Okay. All right. One more hitter, and then we'll get to some pitching pickups that have been really nice. Colin Moran. Now, there was not a lot of good buzz about Colin Moran in spring training. I'm sure you got the exact same scouting reports that I got, which, I mean, listen, apparently he makes Jorge Cantu look like a model and the smartest man alive. So this is what I'm.
Yeah. He was drafted by the Marlins, so I'm familiar with him too. He got off to a great start. Okay,
right.
He's still been okay.
Last.
Yeah, he's been okay since then. But remember, when you hit a grand slam in the first week, like eliminate those numbers, and it's not as sexy as it was in week one. He is an everyday player, which means NL only, 15 teams, third base, play him every day as a third baseman or corner infield. You have to do it. I'm not completely sold on him yet. I never was, but you have to be impressed with what he's done so far. And again, if you drafted him and you played him and you got all those stats, then you should be rewarded for taking that chance.
Yes, you should be.
That's it. I got nothing else.
All right, we'll get to some pitchers here. Just a question here from Dave Frisk. What do we do with the likes of an Eduardo Rodriguez and Luke Weaver in 14-team head-to-head category leagues?
Both should still be owned. I'm more in on Weaver, obviously, than I am Eduardo Rodriguez. He's kind of a little bit hit or miss. I did in our host league last week trade Luke Weaver for Nicholas Castellanos. I did make that move. I didn't think Weaver would pitch as poorly as he has the last couple of times, but I just kind of had a lot of pitching, and Weaver's a sexy name. I needed an extra hitter, and I thought I would get that done, and it did. Rodriguez has been very inconsistent, up and down. He plays in a good offense, so you could think that some wins would be chased there. But Howard, the way that I see Weaver is I think you'll get more counting numbers, more strikeouts, more innings pitched. I feel like the Red Sox are pulling the plug on Eduardo Rodriguez as soon as he's in any kind of trouble and they go to the bullpen. So I think I'd rather have Weaver if I had to make the choice between the two, but I'd love to have both if I could and just stream Eduardo Rodriguez.
All right, so there you go, Dave. Stream Erod and keep Weaver going. So you've got faith in Weaver getting it back and being able to perform at a higher level. Talk to me difference between him and Luis Castillo, because this was like here are two guys who I have zero shares of, because the price tag was way too high. Like, I mean, people were drafting Weaver like he was a number 2 starting pitcher for your fantasy team. Castillo was another guy getting tons of buzz. I just wasn't in on either one of them for the cost, and now neither of them are performing even remotely up to the level that people expected them to. One over the other? Are they both going to come back? Where are you at?
I'd probably rather have Weaver. The issue with Castillo I think, and it's kind of hard to say, that I think that Castillo really surprised a lot of people last year when he came up and pitched as well as he did. He was pretty good in the minors. The Marlins had him too. They traded him for Dan Straley, and when he came up, he was just dominant from June on. And the perfect example of me for Castillo is he comes up. There's very little track record. There's very little scouting. Teams are having to run to advance scout this guy, and the hitters just couldn't catch up to him. Now there's video, there's film, and it seems like they've kind of figured some things out. Whether it's tipping pitches, I'm not sure. He's still getting swings and misses, so I have the confidence there. But Howard, the Reds, man, like, are they going to win 70 games?
No.
And their bullpen getting to Iglesias is not very good. So I think some people thought, hey, Castillo could win 15 games this year. I mean, I don't see that happening anymore. I would set a total of like 10 for Castillo probably on the season, and I think he'll get better as we go. Weaver, if he posts 7 innings of an ERA of 4 all year, he's going to win 12, 13 games on St. Louis. That's a good team. So just a huge difference when you're trying to project wins. Castillo's going to have a problem getting them.
Yeah, I have a huge problem getting them. It's another reason why you got to worry about Iglesias actually getting some saves for that bullpen. All right, we're kind of at the tail end here, Craig. Some final thoughts on the month of April. Certain things that you're looking for the coming month of May.
Yeah, I would just keep pounding the waiver wire. Every week you got to be on this thing. Just because you don't know what Nick Kingdom is going to do his next start or if he'll get a next start, you should pick him up in fantasy and just hold on and see and wait. And if he makes his next start and what we saw the first start is real, then you got somebody for free or for a couple of bucks. If you wait and then you wait for a guy to get called up like Soroka, he's going for $100 on the waiver wire this week because you waited. So try to get a week or two ahead of the game. May is going to be, mid-May is going to be a time where some other players are going to get called up. A kid on the Marlins, Sandy Alcantara, he's going to come up and strike out a lot of batters. He'll be up in a couple of weeks. Start looking at those kind of guys now. Look in teams' minor league systems and start targeting that. And now, after the month of April is over, you can now take a look at your team and take a look, especially I would say in terms of pitching, at strikeouts. Like if you're way behind and you notice yourself, well, I got a great ERA, I got a great whip, but I'm far in strike. You need to add a couple of starting pitchers to that mix and start streaming some different options, especially from some of these good teams. You fall too far back in that category specifically in terms of the way that we look at pitching these days, you're not going to catch up. So that's kind of the way that I view it. And I am hanging on to dear life for my good starting pitching. I'm just not trading it right now. I'm not trading Scherzer. I'm not trading Syndergaard. Anybody who's performing for me, Carlos Martinez, Charlie Morton, Manaea, like you really have to blow me away in leagues to trade those guys. I'm just scared as bleep to go on the waiver wire and pick up a starting pitcher right now. It's ugly.
No, it's incredibly ugly. My Labor NL only team. Love this because my pitching staff is Patrick Corbin, Aaron Nola, Max Scherzer. I mean, those are my top four. Those are my top 4 starters there. Then I've got Zach Davies in there, Herman Marquez. But what I did was I plugged in a couple of these middle relievers with the high strikeout rates, like a Drew Steckenrider.
Yep. You don't touch it. You let that thing go, and people make those trades. You keep hitting reject because every 5 days when your guys pitch and you look at the standings and you're 12 in ERA and 12 in WHIP and 12 in strikeouts, that's a good feeling to know that every time those guys come around, it's always going to keep you in the game. You trade one of those guys away for a buy low hitter, you better be sure what you're getting back is legit because those pitchers can carry you. They can the whole year. I mean, what happens if those guys that you just mentioned stay healthy all season long? You're going to win every single pitching category. No pitchers are coming up from the minor leagues, or very few that are going to impact your fantasy team. But between now and June, hitters are going to come up that are going to have a huge impact. It never happens with pitching. Every once in a while, there's some rookie. Castillo was last year. A few years ago, it was Jose Fernandez. But in general, it doesn't happen. And with hitters, Bellinger, Judge, Paul DeYoung, all the time.
All right, there you go. Words of wisdom. Craig Mish, everybody. Craig Mish. Boom. Absolutely. I love it. All right, well, that's going to do it for us, guys. Appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Anybody who had a question, by all means, give us a follow here on Twitter. I'm at RotoBuzzGuy. Craig is at Craig Mish. Fantasy Alarm live stream every Tuesday and Friday at noon for MLB. That's me and Craig. Me and Brandon Marianne Lee every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can check that out for us. We're going to be doing a huge post-draft live stream this coming Thursday, so you guys don't want to miss that. Craig, you can catch him every morning, 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. You can catch me on the Fantasy Alarm Show, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday as well. Craig, thanks so much, man. Looking forward to the rest of the week, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
All right, sounds good. Looking forward to it, and good luck to everybody this week with all their teams.
There you go. That's going to do it for us, everybody. Thanks so much. Take care.